Chapter 5. So there I was, the right guy at the right place at the right time. Probably for the first time in my life. Both Slater and I were let out of jail with no problems. I got off with just a caution. They couldn't prove my connection with the Rashers, and I guess they just got sick of me protesting my innocence to anyone who'd listen. Slater paid his $200 without a flinch. He really didn't seem to care too much. The Road Rashers had camped out just outside town. Slater invited me to go back with him and introduce myself. He then helped me check over my bike. There didn't seem to be any damage that between us we couldn't put right back at the camp. We collected our helmets from the police officer on duty and picked up the rest of our gear from the sergeant at the desk. His name badge said O'Leary. "Okay, Slater, I guess I'll be seeing you soon. Take care." Slater just grinned, pulled on his helmet and sauntered out of the door, whistling. "Oh, and," he checked my name on the arrest sheet. "Player, is it? I've got a funny feeling that I'll be seeing you again soon as well." "I don't know what you can be talking about," I lied. I too pulled on my helmet and followed Slater outside. I sincerely hoped that I wouldn't be seeing O'Leary again. "Weren't the police a big problem for the Rashers?" I asked Slater. I wish I hadn't. He explained that the police bikes just went up to catching you on the open road, so as long as you stayed on your bike you were okay. No, the only way you'd ever have trouble from the police was if you wiped out. The police then just cruised along the highway and picked up the pieces. "Every time you crash, just be sure to jump back on again quickly," was his nonchalant advice. I didn't like the sound of that, especially the part about every time I crashed. He made it sound like it would become a regular event, and too many more crashes just like the last one, well, it didn't bear thinking about, so I tried to change the topic of conversation. "That O'Leary guy, you know him?" I asked as we strolled through the twilight towards the police pound to collect our bikes. "Yeah, we've met once or twice," admitted Slater cryptically. "But he's the least of your worries. Some of the other cops aren't so understanding, but you'll find out yourself. Have no doubts about that." We jumped on our bikes and the two engines roared into life. Our two headlights cast a broad beam of light around the pound, and we cruised out the gate. Slater cheerily waved back at the police station as we left. I thought I could just make out the figure of O'Leary gazing out of the window at us, resignedly shaking his head. It was a cool evening, and the ride helped clear my head. To be honest, I was still a bit dizzy from the crash. Although I'd lied through my teeth to the police doctor, who demanded to know what had really happened to me, I told him that I'd just stopped off to take a leak and that my bike had fallen over while I was trying to find a suitable tree. Not very good, was it? I hope he just didn't interview the cow. I didn't tell him that on top of my irrigation attempts, my tree abuse extended to headbutting them at 120 miles an hour. Yeah, headbutting trees. That was one bad habit that I should really try and kick. I made a mental note to stop abusing the gifts of Mother Nature, especially trees and my own body, and rubbed my head. A few miles of highway later, Slater signalled that it was time to turn off the main road, and we gently cruised down a narrow lane towards the lake. It was practically dark as the two of us chugged to a halt, and I could see a campfire burning, surrounded by a group of people. As we killed our engines, I could hear the sound of quiet conversation drifting through the night air. Slater led me over to the campfire and introduced me to the organisation. They checked me out, took a long look at the bike and asked what I was doing. I explained about my holiday plans, then talked at length about my years as an amateur circuit racer. They were polite but not overly impressed. I was disappointed. They could have at least humoured me. Finally they asked Slater's opinion. Well, I spent 3 hours locked in a cell with him and was still talking, was as committed as Slater would get to an opinion. But this rather loose character profile seemed to be enough for the organisers. Yes, by a stroke of luck there was one free place. Some guy from New York who was due to appear hadn't made it. The word was that he'd wiped out 3 miles out of the city, and the New York police had him locked up as soon as he regained consciousness in a local hospital. I was allowed to race on my own bike to start off with, and in my own levers, but that would have to change as soon as they got me some regulation gear for me. They told me everything I needed to know for the next day's race. I can sum it up in 2 words: ride fast. I was still intrigued by the deal with the police. I was a respectable guy. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life as a fugitive from the highway police. So how come we can get off with a fine, yet in New York they bang that guy up? I asked. "Listen kid," explained one of the organisers, "we race in 5 different areas, but always the same 5. Did you ever wonder why?" He leaned forward and lowered his voice. Well, let me explain. Not only are there some of the best stretches of open road around, but the people are friendly. You don't grow up in the country without riding a motorbike, and that includes the cops. Let's just say that the cops around here understand. Let's just say that if you're all part of the deal, just another obstacle, if you want to look at it that way. I think I understood, but my mind was too preoccupied to inquire further. I'd stumbled upon a sport that I'd vaguely heard of, and now I was part of it. The name Sierra Nevada had been bugging me. As I said, I knew I'd heard it before. Sitting by the campfire, staring into the flames, I remembered where. It was a story in the newspaper years ago. It had caught my eye because the story was about a high-speed illegal motorbike race. All of a sudden, everything clicked into place. It was like a schoolboy's fantasy had come true. But tomorrow was my first race. Touring America could wait. This was my chance to prove that I was as good a rider as everyone else, and it was also my chance to meet Natasha. I sat around for a while after everyone else had left to get some sleep, and I thought about what lay in store for me. Okay, I know what you're thinking, that I was just some love-struck young kid out of his league. Well, maybe you're right, it's true. I'd often got myself into trouble before, leaping into something before I'd weighed up all the pros and cons. But I'll tell you this much, that afternoon I chased Natasha and Viper along some pretty mental roads, and I'd come pretty close to catching them too. Okay, so I was riding a Shuriken 400, not the fastest bike in the world, but it handled like a dream, and a quick glance around all the bikes at the camp told me there weren't many that were faster. So I reckoned I had a real chance of making it. I was fast, and what I told Slater down at the police station was true. I really had nothing better to do. Oh, and about Natasha. Yeah, I guess you're right. I was way out of my league.